Hello, good afternoon. It's 12:30 sharp, so it means that it's time for today's workshop, which I'm very pleased and excited to present because it's a topic that a lot of teachers has been requested and has been asking for about inclusive education. Let me introduce myself. My name is Abdel Jacobo. I'm the academic specialist for University of Dayton Publishing in Grupo SM Mexico. I'm in charge of providing academic services in the whole country and to work with a net of consultants which are providing training, teachers training about different topics and workshops. And we organized this series of workshops since March 23. So we're very pleased to continue working. At the end of this workshop, I'm going to present the calendar. I'm going to introduce the calendar for the next 2 weeks. So please stay tuned so you can see what's coming on starting April the 20th. So please continue with us until the end of the workshop. Well, I'm very pleased to introduce Ana Cecilia Caballero, our speaker today. She's going to talk about inclusive education. Let me read Ana Cecilia's bio so we can all have an idea about who she is. Ana Cecilia Caballero Madrigal was born in Los Mochis, Sinaloa. She's an English teacher by Cambridge University with ISOLT in Service Certification of Language Teaching. She has been in the education field for over 9 years, teaching English as a second language. Her main experience lays on elementary school grades 1 to 6, but she has also taught different levels from higher education and professionals, all of them informal and in informal environments, focusing on personalized attention and inclusion. Ana Cecilia has been a teacher trainer for over 3 years and has prepared more than 2,000 teachers for the Ministry of Education all over the country, upgrading their English levels and preparing them for different certifications such as DKT, YLE, CLIL, and CAL. She's an oral examiner for Cambridge University, Young Learners, CAT, PET, and FCE. As a freelance agent, she has collaborated with institutions such as International House and Certeca. The most meaningful certifications she has taken are Educational Strategies for Attention to Diversity from ITESO, which focuses on inclusive education and special needs, and a program of certification on comparative learning from the Miami Educational Research Institute. She's currently working on obtaining her bachelor's degree on education. So, as you can see, she's an expert about inclusive education, and we are very happy to have her here with us on this very interesting workshop. So please enjoy. And Ana Cecilia, you are now with a group of teachers from all over the world. Welcome and feel free to start.
Thank you so much, Abdel. Then I will start. Well, Abdel already told you a little bit about myself, and I would like to share some more information. When I started being a teacher, it began as a temporary job, okay? I was a college student who knew how to speak English and like children. I remember finding my students quite interesting since I got to understand that everyone was different, right? I know it sounds kind of obvious, but as a teacher, I find a way to see through this more clearly, right? In a whole different level. I started realizing how necessary it was for me to, well, continue studying and to know more, okay? To know more about activities, attitudes, reasons for specific behaviors. And well, it became my priority to know more and more about these topics. So that's how these became to be my true calling, teaching. the objectives of today, we're going to learn what inclusion is, the importance it has, challenges that we face towards becoming inclusive teachers, the benefits it has for students in general, parents' feelings and attitudes towards this kind of education or this approach, special needs. It is mentioned because, as you know, inclusive education started as a way to take students who had special needs and were in special schools, all together, to take them into mixed classrooms. Why? Because they started seeing benefits on the students. So instead of having special schools for them, the teachers had to they had to prepare more and prepare better in order to meet students' needs. Okay, we're going to see some cases about some special educations. I hope, well, special needs, sorry. I hope you like them, and inclusive classroom strategies. Right. Well, here we go. Different descriptions of or definitions of inclusive education. By UNESCO, they say that it's a process of addressing and responding to the diversity of needs of all learners through increasing participation in learning, cultures, and communities, and reducing exclusion from education and from within education. From a book that is really interesting, Inclusive Education Strategies, a textbook. Inclusive education assumes that students, diverse and unique, are learning side by side within the same school and classroom context. By Norman Kant, when inclusive education is fully embraced, we abandon the idea that children have to become normal in order to contribute to the world. We begin to look beyond typical ways of becoming valued members of the community, and in doing so, begin to realize the achievable goal of providing all children with an authentic sense of belonging. This is probably my favorite. Inclusive education is about embracing all, making a commitment to do whatever it takes to provide each student in the community and each citizen in a democracy. An intransferable right to belong, not to be excluded. Inclusion assumes that living and learning together is a better way that benefits everyone, not just children who are labeled as having a difference. This is really, really important, okay? I have issues with the word special used in a context where it's not quite positive, or the word weird, which I'll tell you a little bit about later on. Teaching children to be knowledgeable about differences, supportive of others, and active in changing structures that are oppressive to various groups can all begin within inclusive classrooms. It is within a classroom that openly and directly addresses the interests, needs, and possibilities of all its members, that students might be best experience democratic structures that empower and support all participants by Sapon Chabin. Okay, so after reading that, after making you think about what inclusive education is, defined by different authors, and for me, it's just like about learning from others and getting the best of each person, honestly, like in a very brief way. I want you to write on the chat your ideas. Do you think inclusion is important in education, and why? Okay, I'm gonna go here and try to read your comments. And if there are not comments right away, let me see. Okay. Hi. Well, we have people from Ecuador, Puebla, Mexico City, Puerto Rico. Wow. Ecuador again. Wow. Chile, Mérida. Wow. Okay. Well, greetings to everyone. Like I told you, I'm very happy to be here. This is something that really, really makes me happy. And well, it's my passion. So I'm just gonna continue until I see your answers for this, okay? And well, I'll move on. But I invite you to write your questions, write your comments. I'll be here pending to read. Okay, we have some comments on this. Very important, Angelina. Very important, but we as teachers are not prepared to face the challenge. Oh my God. Well, this is very important. Although I obviously love teachers and I respect our profession very, very much. Sometimes we are not willing, and I think that's something to talk about because we will. Let me see. It is important, Abraham, it is important, but teachers are often low prepared to face those issues. Yes, sometimes we are not prepared, and well, it is our responsibility to do so. Well, we have a lot of comments. Yes, of course, everybody needs to be included, as you said. It doesn't matter if you have a special need or not. Perfectly, okay? This is my whole focus on inclusive education. Whether you have a student with special needs or not, it is not important. You need to be inclusive. Give me a second. It is essential. It is important because everybody deserves to have an education, of course. Yes, it is because we need to treat them in the same way. I mean, the students need love and attention, and that is inclusion. In a few words, that is exactly. Tere, just because education is a universal right, it is very important. Yes, kids need to learn at their own pace, and we need to teach them accordingly to their needs. Exactly. Okay. Whether if they are diagnosed or not, whether if they have spectrum, a disability or not. Okay. Inclusion is very important in education because when we include students, they feel important and motivated. Of course, it has been proven that students who feel happy about going to school and they have positive feelings towards their teachers learn better. Okay, I believe inclusion makes the world a better place, Francesca, because it teaches us how to be creative, innovative, flexible, empathic, and better humans. Okay, wow, I'm impressed with all your comments. I hope I have the time to read them all, and I will invite you to continue participating as you are now. Thank you so much for all this. Okay, teachers, now I'm going to continue, all right? Now, about the importance of inclusion, okay? All children are able to be part of their community, okay? As they spend most of their time at home and in their schools, will be the main places to start working on inclusion, okay? Stop comparing your own children to other children if you are a mom or dad, because they're not the same, okay? It hurts. And I know that you should know by now that as teachers, we do it sometimes as well, like, oh, your brother was my student a few years back. And I remember that he was really clever. You know, I once was asked by a teacher, like, why aren't you as smart as your sister and your brother? Like, literally like that. So obviously, I didn't feel as appreciated and motivated to be at school as I should have. They develop a sense of belonging, since they feel that they should be there. There's a reason for them to be there. Better prepared for life in the community as children and adults. It has been proven that people who feel confident and they have high self-esteem, they are more successful later on. Provides better opportunities for learning. This is because teachers have diverse activities and ways to set up instructions, okay? And this makes all your learners feel capable and useful, so it is really important. Now, somebody was mentioning before that some of the challenges is that as teachers, we are not willing to change or to be trained. But in general, one of the big challenges for diverse reasons is the lack of training of teachers for this kind of education, okay? Another challenge is the way that our buildings or our schools were built, okay? Like in general, for example, a few months ago, one of my students had an accident and she had a problem, like a big problem with her knee, one of her knees. And even if we collaborated as teachers and principal, the coordinators, her parents as well, it was really difficult for her to get to the classroom because the building itself was difficult to cross by, you know? So that's something that we need to take in account when we are trying to be inclusive, okay? Our community, the stigma and discrimination must be dealt with, okay? Not because, you know, for example, personally, I have big respect for people with autism and Asperger syndrome. And I tend to think that they are perfect human beings who were born in a world that is not ready for them yet. So when you mention those disabilities or disorders to other people, they tend to set a negative attitude towards it. And I don't think it's fair because they were born that way, you know? So we should like wipe away every negative idea that we have towards special needs and differences in general. And well, it's our time to change. It's our time to adapt, okay? Then we got to see our students as individuals. They need to be educated on the benefit of inclusive education. As I told you, for me, it's not really important if we have special students with special needs in the classroom, which we probably do. But our students need the right to be educated like that for within the future to be people that include others, okay? Now, this might be a difficult one. I'm reading some of your comments. Jenny, we have to build an inclusive school and include directly parents. I agree. It's hard when we don't, I think we don't know which strategies we need to apply for these students with special necessities. That is really important, teacher. Actually, I'm going to talk about it later on. Marcela, thank you for your comment. Ana Paula, stigmas and stereotypes are only in our minds. The students do not care or differentiate these issues until adults mess with their minds. I totally agree. You know, we are their example, the role models, and we need to be really careful with our expressions, with our gestures, and everything else that we set up our students to have or to learn from us. Okay, as you said, like sometimes they don't even see differences in skin color, for example, and we tend to emphasize those kinds of things. So it's not fair. It's about Angeles. It's about understanding disabilities and then get trained to help our students learn. Okay, thank you very much. Well, I separated this into rows. Okay, I will start like with the negative things. Okay, parents. They feel uncertainty because they have this child who is different from others and they are not sure of what to do. They don't decide, you know, and they are, well, really much confused. Okay, then they are in denial. Okay, they don't get to face the reality as a family and they pretend nothing's happening. They feel concerned because they know that there's something unusual with their children, especially if it's like an intellectual disability or some characteristics that fit into a spectrum or a disability disorder. Okay, unrealistic expectations. This works whether if the students have been diagnosed or not. Okay, if they haven't been diagnosed, they expect you as a teacher, to have the solution for everything that's happening without receiving any real help. Okay, because you as a teacher, you are committed, you study, you investigate, you do everything on your part, but honestly, when there's a special need, they need extra help. Students and families need extra help. Then, when they have been diagnosed, some families think that this works sort of like a magic wand, like, okay, here's that diagnosis, please do what you have to. And it doesn't work that way. We know that even if our students do not have special needs, there's a lot of work behind real progress, okay? There's anger. Why is this happening to me? Why is this happening to my child, to my family? It's not fair, okay? Now, on the right side, we got teamwork, okay? We get to work closely as parents, teachers, even the student that it's well, being treated, we work together, okay? We get to be helped and they get to be helped by us. We share the same goals. We have shared goals and objectives since we are on the same track, okay? We have the suggestions for the specialists. We have this plan as parents and teacher, and we have the same consequences or a plan of consequences if they're not the same, because it is different to be at home than to be in school. And well, we are aware of what the consequences are. We get to see real advance or progress, and in general, we get to see better outcomes. Yes, I know, Anonymous. Some parents do not accept and don't help. Unfortunately, this is a reality. What can I tell you? I'm going to tell you about some cases, which I hope you find interesting. I have helped students with special needs along my almost 10 years as a teacher, but I selected a few that I found the most interesting. Okay, and some of that include not being diagnosed in an early stage of childhood. Most of times, the students with special needs are the parents. We're going to talk about that too. Sometimes it's genetic, sometimes it's behavioral. Okay, sadly, parents don't collaborate, prevent, even in normal situations. That is true. Okay, I'm really hoping that this situation right now, the coronavirus is going to change some of these aspects towards the situations that we face as teachers every day. Okay, benefits for students. Okay, this is a good part. Freedom to choose. Well, as the students have more options, they have the freedom to choose, well, sometimes some activities that you as a teacher have in your mind, like the same goal, okay? But you change the activities or you change the instructions, and they have more options. Let's face it, everybody likes having options, okay? Teachers need to be well trained with their knowledges, and the institutions empowered to provide a good education for the students. I totally agree. I know that there's a lot of things to do. I know that in our country, well, I live in Mexico. I know that there are people connected from all over the world. it's a big challenge. You know, that is not a reality, but as I told you, teaching has to be a calling, a true calling. So if it is like that, you won't stop. You won't stop trying. Yes, I know, Gisela. Parents should be trained as well. I know. Now, enhance self-esteem. Well, since this is a cluster that includes everyone, like the name of the approach says, everyone, learners feel, well, every learner feels accepted and capable. Okay, inclusion makes students with special needs be absent less often. This has been shown by different studies. Okay, and as well, we had the information that they also develop stronger skills, sorry, in reading and in math. Okay, improves self-confidence. As we said, they feel more confident, they feel capable, they feel like they can do so much more than they did before. And an inclusive class often brings specialists like speech therapists, reading specialists, and other services providers into the classroom. And even if our student, like some of our students are not diagnosed or their disability, they are not eligible for special education, like as itself, they can get it informally, because then we have like people helping us. So that's good too. Improve cognitive and social skills while having fun. Okay, teachers make their teaching to the way students learn best when we are talking about inclusive education. Inclusion helps children know that difference is just a normal part of life. So this helps them to be more tolerant, more patient, have friendships that will last longer, if not forever. And students, every student gets the real chance to get the best of him or herself. Okay. Each learning experience, it's clear and it has like an objective for everyone. All right. Then I'm going to ask you, this trivia has 3 questions only, okay? Now, I'm going to ask you to read, well, I'm going to read the question, you can read it yourself, and to write as fast as possible in the chat your answer for these questions, okay? Obviously, after the question, I will explain a little bit about the answer, okay? So, types of special needs, there are 4 major categories, and I would like you to tell me, like, which ones or what names would you give to them, or if you know some, then just type them. If I see one that is already like correct, then I will tell you that it is, and I will explain later on, okay? I'll give you a few seconds, and, well, sorry. I'm here pending of the chat, okay? Come on, teachers, you can do it. Remember that we don't need to be teachers of special education. We just need to be willing to learn, all right? And I know that that's what you're doing because you're here. You're here on your vacations. You're taking the time and the interest to be connected. And, well, this will pay it off. Just for some reason, I don't see any answers, and I do need them to continue.
Anna, they are typing, so let's give them some time, I guess.
Okay. Thank you so much. I'm sorry, but I always, sorry,
okay,
I kind of gave you the answer. Yes, I always make these hard questions, right, Abdel?
It's okay, Anna, it's very good. We're just giving some time to answer because I think they are thinking, and also it takes time to type on the chat box.
It's okay. Thank you so much. I'm gonna keep checking.
Meantime, why don't you repeat us what inclusive education is, just quickly?
Okay, inclusive education is about having the best of everybody by taking their differences, those are my own words, by taking their differences in account and having in mind that you can learn from each other to later on have better outcomes as an individual, as a community, um, as everything in life, you know? Because then it comes to the part where you have to be inclusive as well in your job, and this helps a lot. Like if you had this kind of mindset since you were little, it helps you when you are an adult. Okay.
Okay, thank you. Not they not typing, and they might be for two reasons. Maybe they don't know the categories, which is good because they're gonna learn, or maybe they are afraid to participate. I mean, because we are not familiar with the topic, most of us.
Okay, don't worry. Thank you so much, Abdel, for telling me this. So then I will continue, teachers. I hope you find this really interesting. Okay, there are 4 types, okay? Physical, developmental, behavioral, emotional, which is like the same, and sensory impaired. Here are some examples in the slide, but I want to tell you what each of them mean, okay? Physical is any condition that prevents normal body movement and control. There are many causes of physical disabilities and include genetics, serious illnesses, spinal cord injury, and brain damage. Okay. Then we get to have the developmental. They are generally detected early on because mental or physical impairments, disabilities that cause them. Okay, like I was saying before, parents get to notice that even if every child is different, then they get to see these specific characteristics that just don't sound that right, and they start having like thoughts about what's going on. They start being concerned. There are Down syndrome, autism, dyslexia, and processing orders, some of the examples. Then we get to have behavioral and emotional, which is the same. This has many possible characteristics. Some of them may include inability to build or maintain interpersonal relationships, and inability to learn, and feelings of depression or anxiety. Okay, ADD, which is attention deficit disorder, bipolar disorder, dyslexia, oppositional defiance disorder. Okay. As I told you at the beginning, the topic of special needs is really extensive, and we're only going to work on it for a brief time because the workshop itself is about inclusive education, and we'll probably in the future we'll have the opportunity to have a workshop about this specifically. Then we have sensory impaired. The sensory impaired needs are obvious because they are physical, okay? Is when one of the senses is not at the average functional level, such as blind, visually impaired, deaf, or limited hearing, okay? So it's kind of obvious since they are babies. They start crashing with furniture when they start walking, or they don't get to respond when you call them. Okay, so it gets to be obvious for parents that they need something else. Okay. The second question, teachers, I invite you to write whatever comes to your mind, even if you don't know. Okay, because it's not important. We're here to learn. The 3 most common disabilities in early childhood. Probably you will know this because you have been teachers for a while, I assume. And well, you have had students that are really different among them and that have special needs. Okay.
Anna, Nefty from Spain. Thank you, Nefty. She called me through my Facebook Messenger, and she told me that the chat box for any reason is not working. That's why nobody wrote anything, and I'm just trying, and she's right. So I mean, we can continue with the workshop as it is, and I'm going to read the answers because I can see the answers, but I can post it on the general chat. Is that okay?
It's okay, perfect. Thank you so much for your intervention. I was kind of shocked because they were participating a lot at the beginning and suddenly they were quiet. So it's like when your students suddenly like stop talking. Okay.
Yeah, so teachers, don't be afraid. I mean, don't freak out. Just write your comments on the chat. We won't see them on the general chat, but I will help to read most of the comments to Anna. So can you
Okay.
repeat the trivia, the question?
Yes, the three most common disabilities in early childhood. I mean, there are a lot that I just want you to think about your students and the disorders they have had more often when they are like between 7 and 9 years old. Well, diagnosed between that age because they are born with that disorder.
We have some comments. We have physical, developmental, emotional, the same for Anonimo, Ana Paulina Suarez, students with attention deficit disorder, autistic the students, physical, speech, visual, Tere Munguia, physical, emotional learning, Ana Paulina Suarez, students with attention disorder, autistic, Jani, motion, speaking, blind. What else? Let me see. Visual problems from Luis. Jesse, autism, Down syndrome, TDAH, TEA, and Ana Paulina Suarez. I already read those out there. Okay, and maybe the last one. A lot of comments are from physical, autistic, emotional, and visual.
Thank you so much. Well, teachers, you were right. Okay. Intellectual disabilities, which involve two areas, having a low IQ, because the average is among 85, no, yes, 85 and 115, if I'm not wrong. And yes, I'm correct. And these learners have like an IQ that is between 70 and 75. And the other area of intellectual disability lays on behaviors, which is that they don't seem to have enough social skills, which involves that they don't even, for example, at a certain age that they should know, they don't know how to dress by themselves, they don't know how to eat by themselves. They don't tend to have a regular time with their peers or even with their families. And well, that's mostly it, right? Down syndrome, which I know you're familiar with, and it was not mentioned, I think, but autism was. And we will see them closely in a few minutes, okay? Are all special needs the same? That's the question.
Okay, we're waiting for some comments to get through.
Okay, thank you.
We have a question. Do we actually leave the questions till the end, Anna? What do you prefer?
Better if they are, if you think they're gonna have an extensive answer, because we are kind of, I have to speed up a little bit.
Okay,
Yeah.
so Paulina Pachar, your question will be answered later. Paulina Pachar as well, she said to the question for the trivia, no, never. Kayla Olguin, she says no. Jaime Herrera, no, each of them are different. Yani, absolutely, not each one is, no, each one is different.
Exactly.
Angelina Talento from Peru, I do not think so. Ana Paulina Suarez, I strongly believe that we should stop discriminating. our students and accepting and embracing the differences. So this is a very nice comment. Anonymous, regarding to the question, I think they're different. Mike, not of course, because all of them need a special treatment. Ramon says, no, special needs are not the same. That's what they call special in the first place. I think we as teachers must learn how to approach every kind of need. And maybe the last comment from the trivia, it says, no, all of them have different characteristics. So summarizing, most of the teachers says no, say no.
Thank you so much, Abdel. Now, the answer in a word is no, since even children with the same diagnosis have different experiences and different challenges, which is something that we will have the opportunity to see today. Okay. Now, let's begin with study cases. I'm going to set some characteristics that I saw in that time. I wrote the slides in present tense because I think they still share these characteristics, my former students. And I'm going to invite you to type on the chat as quickly as possible what disorder or what disability you think this student suffers from. Okay, it doesn't need to be long, just the name of the disorder or disability, and afterwards I will tell you what the answer was and how I dealt with it when it was my time to be their teacher from Monday to Friday. Okay. Well, we're gonna start with Robert. He had difficulties to express orally, but even it was kind of weird because when he almost never talked, but when he talked, he had like high vocabulary or lexis, and he had like these unique tones in which he sounded like a narrator or like a professional one, even if he was like only 8 years old. He had slower pace while working in class. He had low grades. He gets easily distracted. The quality of his tasks were amazing. When he got to finish them, or even in the beginning, you could see his handwriting with such great detail. The way that he colored and his drawings were amazing, not proper of a boy of his age, okay? And he will make different animal noises, but cats were surely his favorite animal. He got to even behave sometimes like a cat. And obviously this caused a lot of, well, bullying in class, even if you as a teacher were like trying to be the more moderator of the situation, but it was hard. Okay, in this stage, Robert was not diagnosed. Okay, he was diagnosed later on. He was my student again when the years passed by. Okay, Abdel, do we have any words that relate to his disability or disorder in the chat?
Yes, one person says dyslexia. Macaulay says autism. Autism. Well, Ramon says emotional.
Okay.
Ana Paulina Suarez says attention deficit disorder, dyslexia. What else? Those are the comments we have so far.
It's okay. I'm sorry to interrupt, but that's perfect. We have already gotten the answer. He suffered from autism spectrum disorder and attention deficit disorder. Okay. My advice from my experience here is to set empathy around your student. It was difficult because, as I told you, he was immature. So it was easy. He was an easy target. You have to be strict. You need to know your students' limitations and abilities and start from there. You need to have great communication with your students' parents. At the beginning, his mom was always overwhelmed by Robert's spendings, right? Oh, we have to work at home, he never finishes. But once she as the mom and the whole family began to pay more attention to Robert, they suddenly found out that having pendings was the least of his problems. You know, he needed to develop social skills. He needed to work on responsibility. There was a long way to go for Robert. Okay, so once I got to have him again, because I had him 3 times as a student, then there was great communication. We're still friends. The family and me were still friends. We still have to have like a lot of communication between Robert's situation and Robert's progress. As well, you need to try to change your students' opinions on your learner. This is a big challenge, but it is not impossible. I got to have Robert again when he was 15. I got to have him as a student, and it was really impressive how my work, everything that the family did, the coordinator, all the teachers involved along the years had accomplished. You know, they literally made Robert one of the group. You couldn't tell if you didn't know that he had autism or he had attention deficit disorder. Not at first. It was not as obvious as it was when he was 8 years old, and this was really good. Okay, so I'm gonna go with the second case. Well, we got Adriana. She has language delay. She's constantly laughing, but like in a nice way. She enjoys participating in front of the class, which is not that common for girls of her age. She likes socializing with people of different ages, which is not common either. They tend to feel embarrassed or shy when they are in front of people who are older. She needs differentiated instruction. Since the beginning of the school year, I knew this. She was very creative. She will present everything such as like a song or dancing, or she has very original ways to surprise me and her classmates every day. She was loved, deeply loved by all her classmates. So I'm going to ask you again to set up just whatever disorder or disability that comes to your mind when I describe Adriana. I tried not to give you like very specific clues, so it was not like that easy, but I think you may have an idea.
Okay, we have Macaulay, Down syndrome, Lucy, ADD, Anonymous, Down syndrome. What else? Spectrum of Autism, Ana Paulina Suarez, and those are all the comments we have so far.
Thank you so much. We got the answer at the beginning. I thought that it wasn't that obvious, but you guys got it. Down syndrome. Adriana's shadow teacher, because she had a shadow teacher, and I worked really closely during that school year. She made me realize how capable our student was, and we were focused on giving her tasks that were on her level, but always asking a little bit more. And as you know, her job was only like supervising, not doing the tasks for her. We were really careful with that part. And honestly, as she was like deeply loved for everybody or by everybody, I used the group's feelings towards Adriana in order to help the group's integration, because they loved Adriana, but sometimes they had like a lot of fights and arguments among themselves. So it was really good to use this love in the group. Then we got to the next one. Alonso, he's 19 years old. He might be my favorite. I mean, just look at his characteristics. He believes in time traveling. He loves superheroes. He gets quite upset with noises. He cannot let go of past events. His routines are very important for him. He has difficulty to empathize, and it's a big challenge to change his mind in general. Okay, so I'm going to ask you to do the same, and Abdel, as soon as we have some answers, then we can hear them out. I think it's going to be easy for teachers to get this one.
Perfect, Ceci. Let's wait what they say.
Of course.
Just a quick reminder, like I said, we are having problems with the chat box, but I can read all your comments, so feel free to participate. Remember, this is a workshop. I'm going to read most of the questions and most of the comments to Anna, and the comments are getting through Anna and Cecilia. Let me see. It says autism, dyslexia, emotional problems, dyslexia. I think most of the comments are dyslexia.
Okay.
Autism.
Okay. Then congratulations, teacher. Autism is right. I repeated this spectrum because besides Alonso, was my favorite student ever. Then you get to see the differences among the same disorder in different ages. As you remember, Robert was 8, he was 19 at the time. Okay, so he might have been, well, when I was teaching, when I had him as my student, he lost his grandma, okay? So he wanted to go back in time to make her grandma change doctors so she could be alive in the present time, and her mom will stop crying. Okay, this broke my heart. How can you explain him that, well, that was not possible? I had to be realistic, but I was really sensitive. I explained it about, well, doctors' responsibilities and hard work. And I talked to him about life and death, which is part of life. And I got to talk about that it's not possible to travel in time. So it was difficult. It was a big challenge, but eventually he got it. Okay. I always recognize his good ideas and like small improvements, and I try to respect his routines as much as possible. And honestly, he was an amazing student, and it doesn't mean that it was not difficult at the beginning, because he had to adapt to me. He had to be adapted, and he got to change his shadow teacher, who has been with him during part of elementary school, secondary, and high school. That I got to see him again when he was in college. So he got to change his shadow teacher, so it was really a difficult time for him. But either way, I can tell you that I got to see his biggest effort on every task. Okay. I'm so sorry. Oh, you already saw the answer. Well, I need to tell you, well, Santiago, he is very interesting to study, even if you already saw the answer. Look at the characteristics. He loves science. He has very high comprehension of 3 languages, does not comprehend hypothetical situations. He has high lexes, strong reactions, seems insensitive. He has above the level comprehension in academic contents, but at the same time, he has lower grades compared to the average, and he does not learn something just because he's told to. As I told you, I already showed you the answer, so I'm gonna skip this one. Like, I'm just gonna give you my personal recommendations. Well, I honestly, I dare to say that Santiago may find a cure to some deadly disease, or might find a way for humans to live in another planet in the future. He's brilliant. He has Asperger's syndrome, as you can see. The deal with Santiago was that he had to work on social skills like full time. He will not feel empathic about anyone, anywhere, anytime. For him, asking him to imagine to be in somebody else's shoes was impossible. Like, why should I how could I? No, it was like a big challenge. You need to work on empathy from your student to everyone and everyone else to your student. And when he was new at school, I got to receive a lot of comments from students that had a great relationship with me. They were former students, and they got to tell me like he's really weird. He likes some things that nobody likes, and they will feel. I will feel their rejection just from their words. So I will tell them, you know what? Well, did you know that he speaks 3 languages? Did you know that he speaks English as a native speaker? Did you know that this and that? And they got to respect him more. He got to give him an opportunity, a real opportunity. And now he doesn't have social problems. Everybody knows how he is and that he has a big heart. And well, as well, when I was his teacher, I had to insist on details such as neatness, handwriting, and quality in general in his tasks, because all the content was right, but the way that he presented it, because he didn't think that was important, it was careless. So that's some of the reasons why he got like low grades, even though he was really smart. He is really smart. He got to say everything and write everything like he was thinking about it. So he was really straightforward, like too much. And he got to, instead of practicing like the contents of class, because with one look he will know everything, and he had a lot of previous knowledge. He loves science, so he got to investigate on himself, by himself, sorry, and he got to had a lot of curiosity, so he knew a lot, but he was not able to express for others. As he will see it in his mind, he will set it up for everybody, and eventually he got to understand a bit more that the way that he saw the world is not the way that everybody sees the world. I had to set really clear limits because honestly, at the beginning, it was really hard. If I didn't, then he will mistreat me or be rude to me and his classmates. So obviously that affected a lot with his social, well, relationships. Okay, I'm not gonna give you this one. Okay, then we have Violeta. She's 12 years old, start thinking teachers. She gets distracted easily. She leaves her place frequently. She mixes up letters. She has a lot of spelling mistakes. She loves listening to music and watching videos. She asks for instructions constantly, no matter where her seat is. You can have her like 30 centimeters away from you and she will still ask for the instructions again. She looks for constant approval. She struggles with written directions, and she has difficulty to understand her own notes. Like she writes them, she makes them, and then you ask about like what does it say over here, and she doesn't know. Okay, so okay, then if we get some like a diagnosis on Violeta, then I would like to hear it.
Okay, we have anonymous Down syndrome, then another anonymous autism, Down syndrome, ADD, Asperger, Down syndrome, autism, dyslexia, and Down syndrome.
Okay, thank you so much, Abdel. Well, she has attention deficit disorder, with hyperactivity and dyslexia. Okay, about Violeta. She is currently my student. So I have talked to Violeta more than once since the school year began. She is very aware of her dyslexia, and we have worked on it. After I recognize like her positive characteristics on her tasks, then I challenge her to find spelling mistakes by herself, and it has become sort of like a game among us. And she has like very positive attitude towards this instead of like thinking like, oh, here goes the teacher again. She's surely having less mistakes now than she did at the beginning. I tried to give her responsibilities or an important role in the class, which is something she highly values and was not used to having, such as she's normally distracted. Teachers didn't used to trust her as much as I do right now, and it has worked for me. You know, I have shown her I trust her and she trusts me too. Okay, this works for all your students, not only the ones who have ADHD or ADD. Use ICQs, which are instruction checking questions, and CCQs, which are checking concept checking questions. Sorry. This will help you a lot. Okay, it will save you a lot of work and a lot of tears. After you have set your instructions, instead of asking your students to repeat them, just make direct questions which have one correct answer. Give them two options, such as, do you have to work in teams or individually? Do you have to set this task by recording a video or by a text on your notebook, and so on? So it's like very, very clear for everybody. Then concept checking questions, they can be at the beginning of the class, in the middle, or at the end. While you are sure that your students have understood everything, imagine that you explain as the future tense, and then you ask them, okay, is the future tense focused on events that already happened or events that will happen? And then you can have an idea of their level of understanding. Always take in account the seating arrangement. With the students, you need to have them like really close to you. As teachers, even if we're monitoring, we always have like our favorite spots, like on the side of the classroom or close to the door or whatever. So keep that in mind before you ask your student to have like certain place. Okay. Make realistic deals with your student in order to improve the learner's attention. This has worked for me really well. Every week we have like a different goal, and she's aware of it, and we work together. And obviously the age helps, but I surely think that if you lower or level up everything, it will work, even if your student is 6 years old. No, they can totally surprise us. Use your students' interest as a way to motivate her or him. In my case, as I told you, she loves music, she loves video, so I try to implement them as part of the class, or use them as prizes. You know, if you do this, and conductive behaviors. Then we got to see Mary, last but not least. I love her, she's currently my student as well. She suddenly and frequently starts dancing in the middle of the class, but she's a really great dancer. It is hard for her to focus. She shouts most of the time, not in a violent way, just she has like very high volume. She shows like low interest in given instructions. Like when you're giving the instructions, she doesn't mind. She gets behind in her tasks. She has pending work most days as a consequence. As I'm an English teacher, she normally asks me or her classmates for translations, and she rarely does homework. Okay, so I want you to tell me in the chat again what your diagnosis is about Mary, and well, I'll just wait for a few seconds, okay?
All right, we have some comments. Scattered attention, hyperactivity, dyslexia, autism, emotional disorder, ADD, TDAH, a lot of different comments. ADD, what else? Emotional disorder, autism, and TDAH.
Okay, thank you so much. Well, to your surprise, she has only been diagnosed with deafness or limited hearing. She can only hear on one ear, and it's only 30%, and the other one is 0. Well, this was new for me. I have never had a student who had limited hearing. You need to make sure that you talk to your student like facing her or him like really closely, and because that gives her or him a chance to read your lips. Normally, as you can tell by now, all this time together, you have to exaggerate your gestures, sensitize the group towards her or his disability. You have to set clear limits. There's Mary is learning now that there's a big difference between being considered by others for her limitations and being irresponsible. She's on that age when she's trying to know what else she can get away with, and I have been like crystal clear with limits. She normally has the same consequences as the other learners. Obviously, I make exceptions when whatever happened, it was like related to her limited hearing disability. Make sure your student has understood the instructions. I tried not to like set the attention on her in front of the group all the time, because then that makes her feel bad. But the first thing that I do after I ask the group to start working is that I go straightly to her and I make sure that she knows what to do. Okay. Now, these were the mentioned disabilities or disorders during the cases, and deafness or limited hearing is in a different color because I'm not gonna talk about it anymore. I gave you the characteristics that I saw in my students, and well, I saw more, but I wanted to share this with you, and I got to give you personal tips. Now we're going to talk about like what the books say. Okay, we got autism spectrum disorder. This is set up in early childhood. It's normally recognized when children are really young, and it continues in adulthood. There's language delay, even though their hearing is average. Their language development could present a delay of a few years. They have unusual patterns of oral expression. This means that if you're not close to them or talk to them on a daily basis, it will be really hard to understand them. They don't understand jokes or humor or double sense, multiple sense or meanings of words or abstract meanings. They tend to have monologues about the things they are interested in. They have difficulty to start or finish a conversation since they focus only on what they are interested in, so they don't get to have the sequence of it. They are normally, their social maturity is slower than the rest of the people of their ages, and they tend to have a few friends because of the things that we have mentioned. They don't share happiness. They don't seem to share happiness or sadness with others because it's really hard for them to feel empathy. They have strange body postures. They start spinning, or they start like running with their hands like this, or they have like different usage of their bodies, and it's kind of a special. They don't feel really comfortable with routines who keep changing. Okay. Now we got to have Asperger syndrome, which you know that is strictly related to autism. Well, social interactions, they can vary from like having just a few to nothing. A few gestures while talking. They don't seem to like nod their head or use their hands or have visual contact. They have little eye contact, as was mentioned. They have a difficulty to adapt their behavior to diverse social situations. The lack of general interest in others. They have resistance to small changes in routine as well. Their reactions to stimulus can be like weak or excessive, such as smells, touching some kinds of fabrics, or feeling something in general. It will take them like, they will think more about it. They have unusual concern on the same things. and they use certain kind of language, normally a little bit more advanced than people from their age. Okay, we got attention deficit disorder, and is shared with attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. The ones that are in white are proper from the hyperactive students. The average diagnosis is when they are 9 years old, but they show a lot of characteristics before they even enter to school. They have symptoms, their symptoms decrease when they become teenagers because they feel more committed to their learning and in general to their lives. As babies, they cry more often and sleep less time. The development goals are reached prematurely. This is for people with hyperactivity, since it's like there's like an engine inside of them. They tend to walk and crawl and do things like that earlier than the average. They have difficulty to focus, since their mind goes back and forth. They behave with impulsivity. Mostly when they are hyperactive, they won't stop talking. May suffer from depression when they are adults, and mostly if they haven't had a good treatment or a good follow-up when they were little, and they have no attention to detail, which makes them commit a lot of mistakes or be disorganized, or it has its own consequences. Dyslexia, they have slow reading pace compared to their average. They have, in their personal reading, they have difficulty to comprehend and low speed. And when they are reading out loud, they have a lot of mistakes in accuracy. They're not precise. They have a lot of spelling mistakes, since they, like in the picture, they change the letters place and the numbers places. Affects 4% of the students in basic education, mostly boys. If, this is interesting, if the mother tongue shares phonemes and the way that it's written, like if you read it like it's written, such as Italian might be more than English, it is easier to learn Italian than English. Children that come from families with low socioeconomic level, they tend to suffer more because they don't have the right treatment. And as well, parents' educational level is affecting them. And the early diagnosis is really good for that. It has been proven that a big percentage of children who had an early diagnosis, they tend to be self-sufficient and successful in the future. Then we got Down syndrome. Eventually they get to development Alzheimer's. They have language problems. They have perceptual motor skills problems, which has to do with every movement. Social cognition, physical abnormalities. They are normally kind of similar. Their eyes are shaped like almonds. They have small ears. Their nose is on the same way, and normally you get to know that they get that syndrome because of their looks, and they have intellectual disabilities. Okay, now strategies by the book. Okay, you should design intentional curriculum. This means thinking about all your students' needs, not only the ones who have special needs. Offer flexible assessment and delivery. This means that you should implement a way of assess your students that really measures your students' learning. Build a community of learners. Students learning from others. Teach explicitly. Avoid assuming that they know everything, and as well, don't give them everything. You need to find a balance. Develop a feedback-rich environment from the teacher to students and from student to student. This helps towards metacognition. Practice reflectively. What did I learn? How did I learn? This is probably one of the most important stages while learning. Now, my personal ones will be very clear with instructions, be flexible, keep the same learning goals, even if you have different activities, have strategies that work for all kinds of learners, and have multiple ways of representing contents. This will give your students a lot of options and that will make them happy. Work on differentiated instruction. This way, the same activity can have the student's best result, each student. And from collaborative work, your students learn and get the 21st century skills, which are known as well as life skills. Okay. Now, teachers, I'm going to be very quick with this. Please write the number of the question on the chat and just write the letter that corresponds to it. Okay. Or because of matter of time, just write on a paper, and at the end I'll give you the answers. Okay. There are 6 questions in total, so I'm just going to give you a few seconds to analyze these ones and then to go to the other ones. Okay, so number of the question and letter that corresponds to the answer. Okay. What are some ways to run a successful inclusive classroom? You have A, create an inclusive environment. B, use a variety of teaching strategies. C, collaborate with other teachers and educate yourself. D, all of the above. 2, inclusive education only benefits learners with special needs. True or false? 3, which of the following is not a benefit of inclusion? More interaction among students, higher expectations for students, development of the skills, and extra time for teacher preparation. Okay, if you want, you can take a picture of this because I'm going to go to the next slide, so you can have the chance to really answer them. And 4, 5, and 6. Professor George, a regular 5th grader teacher, is nervous about teaching his science lesson. His class includes 10 students with learning disabilities who do not learn at the same pace and in the same way as his other students. Which component of teaching an inclusive classroom should the professor include in his lesson? A, acceptance of people differences. B, differentiated instruction. C, free education for all. D, patience. 5. It has been proven that students with special needs have better outcomes in mixed classes. A, true, and B, false. 6. It has, how should you present the information to students in an inclusive classroom? A, through lecture. B, by including pictures. C, in diverse ways so students' needs are met. And D, only connected to the curriculum. Teachers, because of matter of time, I'm gonna continue being quick. I'm going to give the answers, okay? For number 1 is letter D, all of the above. From letter B is false, okay? Also, students with no special needs are benefit from that. 3, extra time for teacher preparation, that's not a benefit. 4, differentiated instruction. 5 is true. And 6 is letter C, in diverse ways so students' needs are met. Okay, conclusions. Every student is unique, so treat them that way and keep that in mind when you're planning. Give them enough information, no more, no less, about their peers with special needs. Talk to them on their own level. Be very careful with the usage of the word weird and try to control it in your class, okay? This should not be a synonym of something bad, but just different. With your students, about your students with special needs, they need to be aware of what you can do for them, what they can do for themselves, what others have to do for them as well. Empathy will be probably the most important part of this. If they feel empathy, they will be more tolerant, they will be kind to others, they will be patient, and this will help your class. And in general values, I think that's something that for surely it should not change in education. Develop their confidence. Teacher, this is your turn, do research, okay? We have the beautiful power of internet, and there's a lot of things that we can learn from there. So do some research. It will pay off. The uses of the word special, as I told you at the beginning, I like it to be in a positive context, not like special, weird, no? Try to motivate your students constantly. When they feel happy, they learn better. Work on emotional intelligence. Remember that it is the first step in realizing their true potential, okay? Sensibility, in a world where it's easier or easy to not care about the others, show your students the difference it makes to care and to be sensitive without being apprehensive. Be flexible and show your students how to be flexible. That will help you in the future to avoid living with anxiety and develop problems related to it, such as depression. And be patient. Be patient and show them how to be patient as well. They learn from your example. Make sure they know that, I love this one, they learn from others and others learn from them, okay? Inclusive education might have been the best thing that happened to education in the last few years. It's been a way to learn from everyone and everything, okay? Now, I want you to, if you can, take a screen or a picture so you can reflect on it. And if in the chat, which is not necessary for me to know right now, make some suggestions of free materials that you think that other teachers can use, okay, such as name of apps or websites. I hope you really learned something today. I have more suggestions, so that's why I'm going like really quick. What else would you like to learn? That's something that I'm not gonna probably answer right now, but we can take it in account for future workshops. And how are you going to do it? The more reflective you are, the more effective you are. Now, I investigated from a lot of places. These were the main ones, which is a book on the Clinician's Guide to Diagnosis. It's really good, and it has like little stories about people who suffer from different disabilities or disorders, and the UNESCO webpage. I'm sorry, but I have only seen these books in Spanish and they are really good, so they will be my suggestion for you. Okay, if you want as well, take a picture, because I want to tell you about some apps that are as well for free. We have got math that can help your kids with dyslexia as well as spelling ones. The reading will help everybody. Science will motivate your students with Asperger's and autism, and puzzles will help everybody as well. If you want as well, take a picture, because I have a little bit of more suggestions. I'm so sorry, I had to speed up a bit, but we're about to finish. More suggestions. I suggest you read Theory. It's a site which is free for the ones that don't know. It helps for reading comprehension. Use rubrics while evaluating, but just make sure that your students understand them completely before you start grading. Ask your students to keep, especially the ones who have deficit disorder, to have a checklist of what they need to do every day. And that way they will develop more responsibility and they will see that they need to improve their pace. This will take a lot of time, but it will pay off. Keep a diary or journal of important events of the classroom and your students with special needs, because that way you will see their progress on daily basis and eventually you will get to see the difference. Be careful with the seating arrangement. Take notes of the students who work well together. This helps students sorry. This helps students develop patience and learn from different personalities and abilities. Have diverse activities. I know that is hard, teachers, but you know what? Get to ask other teachers. They are your best source. You can have like a very, very fun classroom if you do this, and take into account their interests in ideas to set context of classes if possible. It doesn't take nothing from you, probably just a little bit of time and energy, but it gives you a lot because you have them engaged since the beginning. Okay, that was it from my part. Abdel?
Thank you, Ana Cecilia. So can you please leave that slide right now? I'm gonna ask you a favor, since, as you know, we still have problems with the chat box. I couldn't actually type the link on the chat as usual. So please take a picture of the link and also the QR reader. You can use that as well, because once you complete the survey, you're going to get your certificate. So remember that for us is very important, your opinion. And as soon as you do it, I mean, we working on the certificates, we are doing it manual, so it's gonna take time. So just be patient. Eventually you're going to receive all the certificates from all the webinars you had attended. So please do it as that way. I'm really sorry I can't post it on, I can't post the link on the chat box. This is something out of our hands. And regarding that as well, I know you have a lot of questions. I know some of you were kicking out and then you had to log in. I'm really sorry. I think this is Teams problems, but I'm going to try. I'm going to talk to Ana if it's possible to repeat the webinar in Spanish. Probably we can do it in May, because I read some questions that they were very interesting, some comments, but I'm pretty sure that all of you had questions and you couldn't actually type it on the chat or let the message get through. So we're gonna try to repeat this webinar in Spanish, because also I read some comments that they are very interested in sharing this information with the colleagues who don't speak English. So we're gonna try to organize that, and probably in May,
Sure.
we're gonna tell you if it's possible to repeat it in Spanish. What do you think, Ana?
Well, I think it's a great idea. Thank you a lot for your participations, even if we had technical problems, and for your interest and your attitude. Okay.
Yeah, and don't leave right now, because I'm going to share the presentation for the next webinars.
Yes.
So this is something I promise. So we're gonna have a next set of webinars, the next series, starting April the 20th, which is next Monday. Remember that tomorrow we don't have webinar as usual. So on Monday the 20th, we're gonna have assessment online. You have been working a lot of things about online and distance education, because the situation we live right now because the COVID-19. So we're gonna have assessment online on Tuesday the 21st. We're gonna have a journey through competencies, and on Wednesday the 22nd, we're gonna have becoming a technological teacher, and then the Thursday 23rd, planning online classes, and then one more time on Monday 27th. We're going to have e-games and next effective classroom management, mixed ability classes, and online cooperative learning. So all those webinars are for you to work on your professional development. And this is something we are doing with a lot of love. Remember that we have built a community, so please spread the word for the people who this was the first time and you enjoy it. Please spread the word to your colleagues and invite more teachers all over your communities. And for the people who is been connecting the whole time, over and over. Thank you for your support and thank you because we have built a community and that's very important. Remember that education is going to help us to survive these difficult times. So one more time, we really appreciate your being here on behalf of University of Dayton Publishing, on behalf of Grupo SM Mexico. My name is Abdel Jacobo. I'm the academic specialist. So I will see you next week starting Monday with a very interesting topic, which is assessment online. Thank you all, and I really thank you because you patient and stay tuned even so we couldn't use the chat. Have a nice day and please be safe. Bye-bye.